let's talk about forgiveness from the perspective of the divine soul approach. And we're going to do that by reading a text number 2, which is it's a quote from the Torah, from the book of Leviticus, and then the Talmud comments on it. Let's read text number 2.
The Torah states, "You shall neither take revenge from nor bear a grudge against the members of your people." But how can we be expected to forgive in this way? Consider this example. If while cutting meat you cut your hand, would you retaliate in kind against the offending hand?
Beautiful. Okay, this is the Talmudic version of cutting your nose to spite your own face, right? The Talmud is saying that there truly is a way of looking at ourselves as one organism. And that when you're cutting and you by mistake cut your right finger, you don't take revenge of the left hand that was cutting and then cut the left finger. Why we all instinctively understand, why do I want 2 wounds? I already have one. Why would I add another one to me? Right? But when I think about you, when I have a wound, right, and I think about you, I think you and someone else, not about me, right? So it's not me having 2 wounds. That is actually a flawed form of thinking. That is actually, I'm going to say, a delusional form of thinking. And we live in delusion. And when we have a real deep perspective, then we realize we're a single organism and nothing is to be gained if I am going to hurt you. Because that's just the right hand cutting the left hand. Would you agree that that's a deep perspective? How many of you walk around living that perspective as your natural way of looking at things? My hand's not up either, by the way, right? None of us do, right? However, we can know it, number one. Now we know it, and hopefully we accept it. And then we can remind ourselves of it and begin by at least acting as if that was the way things were, as that's the way we felt things to be, even though we don't necessarily feel that way. And that's how we begin to operate on that in that way, and then that's how we begin to feel towards another person. You know, we discussed last week about influencing other people. That was a conversation last week, right? And we spoke about how in Western society, you know, it's live and let live. You know, who am I to suggest to you that you should put on tefillin or light Shabbos candles? It's like, excuse me, that's my life, right? That's the Western mentality. And then comes the Chabad mentality and, you know, approaching people and asking them or whatever it is, right? Now, a lot of times that works very well. Sometimes people yell at you, but a lot of times, actually, most of the time, that works very well. Why does it work well? I remember actually on Hanukkah, Wednesday night, Hanukkah, big celebration here, 4 p.m. Hope you can join us. Don't tell me you're working. I know you're not. So I was in an apartment building in Brooklyn. There's a place called Brooklyn, whatever. It's an interesting place. And I was in an apartment building, and we were going. It was an apartment that was heavily populated with Jews, and we would knock from door to door on apartments, like knocking people's homes, basically. And then, who is it? Are you Jewish? Right? So most of the people would open up once you say that. If they're Jewish, they opened up because, you know, do you have a Hanukkah menorah? No. And we had like these little menorahs, you know, the tin menorahs with the candles. We'd like to give this to you. We show them how to light it, and they light the menorah. Sorry, I'll never forget this. We were standing in the hallway. A guy came out of his apartment. Wrong timing, boy. Oh, boy. I feel bad for the guy till today. So, right, he walks out right to us like an easy customer. Are you Jewish? She's like very hesitant. Yes. Right? Do you have a menorah? She said, no. Can we give you a menorah for Hanukkah? How much is it going to cost me? Right? A real New Yorker. So we told him it's free. We just want to give it to you to do the mitzvah. It didn't compute, right? Because he's not used to, what do you mean? Someone's here giving me something, not charging me, just so that I can do the mitzvah. But when you approach people genuinely, because it's important to me that you do the mitzvah, because you're a Jew and I'm a Jew, we're Jewish, right? It's not you and me, it's we, right? Like, it's a shocking perspective. But everyone's open to that perspective. Unity, everyone's open to, right? And when we approach people from that place, that's very, very powerful. So that's what it's talking about, and that's where two souls, see, two bodies, or we'll call them animal souls, they're fighting before they even fight. Your mere existence is a competition to me. Two souls, as we learned at the very beginning of the course, right? There's no ego in divine souls. It's only purpose, right? So what can we do to make this better? They're not at odds with each other ever at all. So it's not unnatural for them to actually come together. And therefore, divine souls will never move on and move away from each other. It's not acceptable to them. Divine souls are moving forward and moving closer together. That's what they want to know how to do. How do we move forward? How do we move closer together and forward together? That's what they want to do. There's no threat. There's no issue. There's no ego. There's no power play. There's no threat. I'm not feeling threatened by anything. And an example of that, so all souls are anchored in God and thus are inherently unified. We're inherently unified. We're inherently one. Let me anchor this in a little bit more. That means this. That means you and I, right, on a soul level, have absolutely no issue with each other. When we normally talk to each other, there are certain defenses that we have, right? There are certain preconceived notions we have about each other, whatever it may be. On a soul level, there are no issues whatsoever. And there can't be. There's only the desire to be unified.